So about a year ago, I uploaded a video about copyright law for unsigned artists, and a lot of people asked if producers were able to copyright beats that contained unclear samples. Though the answer is yes, and I did upload a video explaining how to register copyright for beats that contain uncleared samples. A lot of YouTube users asserted that no, in fact, you cannot copyright a beat with uncleared samples. And I fear that a lot of people on my YouTube, instead of visiting copyright.gov or calling a lawyer, took these comments as fact. You know, that's what happens on the internet. You put a question out there and billions of people are able to answer that question or put out information that may not be anywhere near true. And that hurts the producer community, you know, because the dumber we stay, the more the major label paradigm will have control over our lives. The more, I hate to say it, but the more rappers and these fake managers and you name it, all of these other aspiring industry professionals can take advantage of us. Because if we don't understand publishing, if we don't understand copyright, if we don't understand original copyright or DMCA takedowns or contracts, the language of contracts, and we're just going to keep getting exploited. And if we keep spreading misinformation among ourselves instead of challenging information and saying, what's your source for that information? Is that a fact? If we don't challenge information, if we don't do the research ourselves, we're going to end up remaining exactly where we are. You know, when I was much younger, there were a lot of myths about the music industry floating around that I believed. You know, I could have called up the copyright office and talked to somebody. I could have probably looked it up on the internet because the internet was around back then. But I was ignorant. And then years later, I started educating myself. Recently, I posted on Facebook that I'd be uploading a video about copywriting sample-based beats, which I did, as I said. And though I didn't ask for answers to the question of whether or not you may copyright sample-based beats and how, many Facebook users tried to answer the question, usually with responses that had nothing to do with my status update. And the comments I received were full of so many myths and so much confusion. I had to address some of them. And, you know, because I fear, again, that a lot of us are relying on what we've heard through the grapevine about copyright and sampling rather than researching for ourselves. And though to some, researching the copyright process sounds intimidating, it's really not. And, you know, really, it's as simple as Googling Copyright Office, U.S. Copyright Office, and there you are. They have instructions, they have a FAQ, they have contact information. It's really all you need. But, you know, sometimes I worry about our ability to find information for ourselves and challenge misinformation. That being said, I'd like to kill the following copyright myths once and for all. These myths, every single one of them, was posted on my Facebook page as a response to my status update about my copyright video. I just want to go through a couple of them. Number one, you can copyright your beat through ascap. This myth really worries me because it proves a couple things. It proves that there are people out there who don't know what copyright is, and there are people out there who don't know what ascap is. And then it stands to reason they don't know what BMI or CSAC is either. And perhaps they don't even know what a publishing rights organization is. ascap is a publishing rights organization. They deal with music publishing, i.e. paying out performance royalties, etc. They don't have the authority to copyright anything. Only the U.S. Copyright Office does. My God, if you don't know the difference between copyright and publishing, hit the books. Do some research. You're in trouble. Number two, I heard you can use 15 to 16 bars of a sample without violating copyright. You know, and I've heard 100 variations of this myth. When I was younger, it was like the 6-second rule or the 8-second rule, because we heard it from people, and instead of checking in on it ourselves, because we thought copyright law, that's really complicated. And when it comes down to it, it's not that complicated. You can get answers. So here's a quote directly from the U.S. Copyright Office, because you're hearing, you can sample 4 bars, you can sample 10 notes, blah blah blah. And here's what the U.S. Copyright Office has to say: there is no specific number of words, lines, or notes that may safely be taken without permission. Dead. Number 3, and I'm quoting directly: I believe you can copyright a new beat as a new works for hire. It can contain either a sample or exist as an interpolation. Bro, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. The U.S. Copyright Office states that a work made for hire is a work prepared by an employee within the scope of his or her employment, or a work specially ordered or commissioned for use as a contribution to a collective work. That has nothing to do with sampling. Nothing. So, number 4, if you manipulate the sample you use, you can copyright your beat. Honestly, I don't know what else to say about that. I mean, that doesn't even sound right when I say it. And now we're talking about, I guess, getting sued and the possibility of you getting sued, which look, man, I'm not telling you to clear all your samples. I'm not telling you to clear samples, period, as a producer. And I'm not telling you to be afraid as an unsigned artist that you're going to get sued by some people that you sample. It's probably never going to happen. That's my opinion. But spreading misinformation about manipulating samples and therefore circumventing copyright law is just not true. That's harmful. This is the last one. I was told I could just mail the CD to myself and leave the envelope unopened and I'd be protected. And we've all heard this. It's called the poor man's copyright myth. The problem is U.S. copyright law doesn't mention this at all. And in fact, if you go to copyright.gov, they address it in their FAQ. But I'll quote: according to Section 408 of the U.S. Copyright Act of 1976, registration of a work with the Copyright Office is not a prerequisite for copyright protection. That means you do have a copyright claim to your work even without a formally registered copyright. So you don't need to mail anything to yourself. But things do get tricky from there on out. If you want to know more about that, I made a video about it that explains it pretty well. Here's the link. If you don't have annotations turned on, turn them on. So I really hope this video lays these myths to rest, at least for the people watching it. I mean, I know it won't, but I can still hope, right? So for those watching this, please, this is what I ask of you. Please lead by example. And that means don't spread myths. And when you have legal questions, consult authoritative sources. Don't just believe anything people tell you, because there's a lot of misinformation floating out there. Word of mouth, and definitely through the internet. YouTube, for sure. Some of my videos, I cringe when I see some of the misinformation that people are spreading in the comments. So be skeptical and think for yourself. Double check, triple check information. Don't do it for me, do it for you. Peace.